The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I think I'm CJ.
And it's hump day today.
It's Wednesday.
And the day after a quite lively city council meeting.
And a quite dead charter commission meeting.
Yeah, well, it made the front page, I guess.
Well, no, we made the front page. But, you know, even then, Pravda couldn't get it right. Chip, I got to ask you, were you interviewed for this?
No, I was not.
Neither was I. I didn't even get a hello. But, you know, some of the statements are on point, but they're kind of misinterpreted and
yeah, they're kind of
taken out of context.
It's hard to put them in the right context when you don't listen to the entire dialogue.
Exactly. And, you know, I was really not surprised to see only 4 people show up to testify. That was you and I, another gentleman, Jeff Goudreau, and then we had Augie Venice, who is the husband of Commissioner Venice on the Charter Commission. There were 5 people, but all Mr. Venice actually did was read what he thought was high points of the charter, the proposed charter. I find it quite interesting. And again, you know, I said it very clearly. And, you know, Commissioner Maioza and I had a conversation afterwards, and he says, you know, even if we take the 20% out, you're still not going to find a reason to support this. I said, my opinion, my position is if you're taking away the rights of the citizen, the rights of the voters, the voice of the people, I'm not going to vote for this. And when you have these charter reviews and ordinance reviews, which they're all appointed by the mayor, the city council, and the school committee, it kind of creates, I think, a situation where you're not going to be properly represented as people. Because again, let's say, for instance, in 5 years when they're reviewing the charter, one of the original charter commissioners have to be on there, and they say, okay, we're going to do away with the form of government we have now, and we're going to move over to a city manager type government. Well, if the mayor's appointing 5 people, do you think those 5 people are going to support getting rid of the mayor's position? I don't think so.
Yeah, look, the whole document, and that's the problem I have. And like I said, it was out of context. I know they said it was, the way I think they said, was fundamentally wrong, claiming it discriminates against poor people. That's not the context it was in. I'm talking about a statement made by one of the commissioners and reaffirmed by another commissioner that basically said, and it goes on in your section, it said that you did say that he wanted to, he actually said that it was to get rid of the poor and the unorganized candidates, to weed them out.
Right.
And who are we? And that, let me put it into context. I'll be fairly brief, but I basically said that, number one, it's to me, it's ridiculous that we're going to require more signatures to run for city council and mayor than it takes to run for state rep. So, I mean, you're talking about the state level versus a local level office. They're making it as difficult as possible. How walking around getting signatures weeds anybody out? It's just making it more difficult, and people go, I'm not going to walk around and beg for 300 signatures. You know, and I made it very clear that who are we to categorize people and create a caste system? What's the next step? Are we going to require that nobody who makes less than $100,000 can run for office in the city of Fall River? You know, the thing is that, and they were right, I said it's not an entitlement, it's a fundamental right, like the right to vote. The right to participate in government, the right to run for public office should be extended to every single citizen. And as I said last night, if we have 150 people run for city council, at least we know we got 150 people that are going to show up to vote. And how about those people that are going to become engaged for the first time? How about the people who may not have a lot of money, may not be very well known, but actually who have great ideas? You know, there's nothing that says people who don't have a lot of money don't have good ideas. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was self-educated. He didn't have a lot of money. He lived in a log cabin. He studied by candlelight and lamplight and did pretty well for himself. There have been numerous cases of people who rose from abject poverty and became captains of industry, became became very important people and came up with some very, very good ideas. You know, to me, and as I said yesterday, the charter flies in the face of the very foundation of this country. Taxation without representation. This charter makes it more difficult for the average citizen to affect change in government. And I think, obviously, that, our state constitution says it, and our Declaration of Independence says it. You know, the Declaration of Independence clearly states that when a government is not working, we have to replace it. We're obligated to replace it if it's not working for us. And it also says that this is a government of the governed. This is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. And when you make it more and more difficult for the people to affect change or influence government, what have we got? We no longer have a republic. We no longer have a democracy/republic. We have a monarchy. Because to me, what some of these provisions in this charter mean is that the people who we elect basically become royalty for their entire term. And if we can't get them out because they'll make it virtually impossible to have a recall. We're not going to have people run because they're going to make it as difficult as possible to run. We put all these things, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, it should take one signature to run for public office, your own. Sign the paper, put it in, and start campaigning. Start telling the people why they should elect you. That's the foundation of this nation. We've seen what's happened as we go up the ladder to state and federal government. You can't run for federal office today unless you're a millionaire or you're in the pockets of millionaires. It costs literally millions, not hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to run for a federal office. Run for Congress, run for Senate, run for President of the United States.
And that office for the House was created by Thomas Jefferson for the plowmen, the farmers,
that's right,
the workers. So they go out to represent their community for 2 years, and then they come back and go back to work. So,
yeah,
there's still a lot of problems with this, and I don't like it, but I skipped something when we opened, and I'm very sorry. As this show is being broadcast right now, Watertown firefighter Joseph Tacano's funeral is occurring. Take a moment in your day to think about this line of duty death and the fact that this man gave his life to keep his community and his people safe. I think it's very important. And I know, Chip, for you, this always hits home.
Yeah, unfortunately, I went to 5 in this community, and I went to a heck of a lot more all over the state and all over the country.
Right.
It's, we all know it's a hazard of the profession, but every time something like this happens, it reaffirms the fact that firefighters run into buildings that everybody else is running out of, and that it is an extremely dangerous job. and as is police, and that's that's one of the reasons that you, regardless of what whether you think you like or dislike them, the fact is that the respect has to be there for those professions. They are in harm's way, as are correctional officers. People who put on a uniform and go to work every day knowing full well that if they do everything right, that if they don't make a mistake, they still can die. It's a completely different kind of job than the normal job.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That a firefighter, I'm sure he wasn't doing anything wrong. The sheer magnitude of the physical effort in an environment of heat and smoke. This is one of the reasons why we have a heart bill for firefighters, because of the fact that they get heart disease at twice the normal rate because of the stresses of the job. But that's the thing that people have to realize when we discuss things like this. When a police officer puts on his uniform, when a firefighter puts on a uniform, a correction guard, and they walk into their respective jobs, whether it be a prison, whether it be a patrol car, or whether it's in a firehouse, that there's one distinct difference with those jobs than any other job. If you do everything right, you still may not come home at night. And with that, everybody take a moment today to reflect. And I'm sure that Fall River sent a delegation up, and my thoughts are with them.
Yeah, I saw a message that went out from President Jason Burns from the IAFF 1314, and he was going to be making an appearance there. Another breaking news story just in from Reuters. At least 12 people were injured near the United Kingdom's Parliament. At least 12 people have been injured on Westminster Bridge after large bangs were heard outside of the British Parliament. Story is to come. So now they're looking at something going on over at the British Parliament House. I mean, this is just amazing. And again, you heard it here first. I love being on top of this stuff when it starts coming in right away. Oh, for those of you who are watching, who are wondering about local business and stuff, Sears announced today, after losing $2 billion in money last year, that they don't believe they're going to make the rest of this year in business. So you might start looking at all Sears and Kmart stores closing before December 31. Also, Payless Shoes announced that they're closing all stores and liquidating everything shortly. So again, death of the brick and mortar store, and here comes the internet, which is going to be interesting because we just dumped, how many millions of dollars into a mall?
Well, again, Fall River's always at the cutting edge.
Yep, yeah, the cutting edge of the last.
That's right.
And Ken Fiola's on the air saying, "Oh, we got plenty of land. We got plenty of land to expand." Yet we lost the company to Taunton because they had no space for them. I don't know what to believe anymore. Let's get this last night's Clowncil meeting. We're at the halfway point in the show.
Wow. That was.
They passed the contracts for the IAFF and the DPW, even though it was said very clearly that settlement for the DPW should not have been in the contract. And it's true, it should not have been. But you can't win for losing sometimes. You got to really pick and choose your battles, and the city council did what was best. They picked and chose their battles. I found it amazing, and I will still find it amazing, that requests were made for information before this contract was considered from the fire department, and the chief made sure, yes, Chief Lynch, I'm calling you out. You made sure that a city councilor and I could not get that information so we could review it. This city has a problem with transparency, a major problem with it. And with that, I think it should be very clear. I think this needs to go back to the legislature under 6610 and revisit it and put in some penalties besides what's there now. But what really gets me going about last night's city council meeting is I've never seen it happen. You had Sean Kadim, Joe Camara, and Linda Pereira serving as the chair, and they were yelling back and forth. It was an absolute fiasco. And people who are watching it live online, because I watched them in various forms, We're making comments that, yeah, Joe, give it to Linda, give it to Linda. Why do you zombies have to personalize everything? Okay? We already know who the hacks are. We already know who the people who are kissing the mayor's backside to get what they want. We know who those 4 people are. They've lost all credibility with many people in the city because they're acting totally contrary to their usual behavior.
Well,
and some of them are acting in line with what they always did.
Well, you know, it's really amazing that that you had 3 people vote against having a legal counsel, because a city council is supposed to be an independent body, because there is supposed to be a separation between the legislative branch and the executive branch. And the fact that the corporation council works for the mayor, if there's a question, they should have access to their own attorney to get an opinion if they have a question. You know, there's no rule of law or any other rule that says that an opinion is law. Also, an opinion from a individual who serves at the pleasure of the mayor, a subjective opinion, you can differ with it, and I think it's 100% right to go out and get a second opinion. I think they should have had legal counsel a long time ago. School departments got legal counsel. Many city councils throughout the state of Massachusetts have legal counsels, but the three wise men voted against legal counsel because I guess they think that you know, that the judge and the mayor do no wrong. But let me get into something that really disturbed me that I looked at. Again, Kathy Ann Viveris, better known as the Pinocchio 5.0, again, sat in front of the council, and again, talked not through her mouth, but through another orifice. They talked about, I believe it was Councilor Ponte asked about how these positions were being funded, and she said, oh, we've got some unfilled positions, so it's not costing us any more to fill those positions because we're using the money for the other positions. Well, number one, you don't subsidize new positions with positions that still remain in the budget. Because at some point in time, especially since the contract you read guaranteed a manning level in DCM, those positions will be filled again. And guess what? When those positions are filled, we now have no funding for those new positions because you have to pay the positions that are in the budget. And the city council they can't pick that up. It's like, really? Really? You know, it's like saying, you know, I've got 3 sewing machine operators that aren't working right now, that I'm short 3 sewing machine operators, so I'm going to hire 3 new supervisors when I know full well I run a sewing shop. And I'm going to have to hire those 3 sewing machine operators at some point in time. But what does the city do? They say, oh, we've got the money from that. But no, you don't have the money. It's only temporary, as usual. Another temporary fix that's going to cost the taxpayers money. Because guess what? These new positions may have a greater salary, and we don't know that. And secondly, how are they going to replace these people who are actually working people that are vacant right now? You know how? Overtime. So we're going to pay time and a half to replace the people you don't get, use their salaries to pay somebody else whose salary, by the way, we're not really sure of, and then ultimately hire people to refill these vacancies because that contract, and correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, had a stipulation in it that they would have 40 people.
Yes, it does.
So you tell me how that's a plausible explanation that this contract, and when they went in front of the council, they complied with the law and had a contract fully funded when it was presented to the legislative body. That was absolute horse excrement.
Well, and the worst part about it was, the lies continued from seat 1, Richard Cabaceres, candidate for mayor, all the way down the line. Because Richard Cabaceres said, these men are waiting for this money. They're waiting for these raises. There is no raise in the first year. So they're not waiting for anything. So again, lies, lies, and more lies. But now we're finding that even before he's mayor, if he becomes mayor, he's already started the tradition of the 6th floor. Misrepresentation. Okay?
They were waiting for their settlement. That's what they were waiting for.
Well, you know what?
Which is a windfall. They didn't expect that.
Exactly.
I always, if you run your budget on windfall, it's like me running a budget saying that I hope I win a scratch ticket this week, because I've already factored into my budget. Nobody expected this settlement. The city, they were in the middle of an unfair labor practice. For all they knew, this could have lasted 2 years. So the city waived a few dollars and they grabbed it.
That's right.
Okay, fine. But let's not make this like it's going to affect these people, their income. They're still getting their normal paycheck, and that's what their budget should be run on, and it should have been done in accordance with the correct manner.
Pinocchio brought back during finance how they need to add another ambulance and EMS to cover because of all the mutual aid calls from 7 to 7. And she said it's going to be funded through the EMS stabilization fund. So it's not going to cost the city anything. But here's the thing. Councilor Ponte brought up a good point, and then so did everyone else. Chief, what are your fire stations like? What condition are they in? Oh, well, they're deplorable. Quote, unquote, they're deplorable. Does EMS have their own building for their ambulances? No, they use the fire stations. So shouldn't they be contributing to the upkeep and maintenance of where they house their ambulances? Yes, they should. I believe they should. And then it came out from the council that we're not getting the proper billing. They're not being assessed the proper charges on the enterprise account. And I believe that. I firmly believe that. I've said that for the longest time. Because they have these huge windfalls in EMS. But none of it gets spent on equipment, trainings.
Yeah, you're right, CJ. But you know something? That's the biggest con in the world. They pay for themselves. They do. Well, let's look at this. You're talking about apparatus maintenance. You're talking about personnel. Now these people, they talk about everything's funded. It's self-funding. Well, believe me. The reason that most communities in this state have private ambulance services is that the fact is that, look, how about pensions when they get off the job? And they added four new people into the pension system. So that's a pension liability. Then you have the liabilities for sick leave, the liabilities for overtimes and contractual benefits and stuff like this. So you factor all that in, and they're talking about how much money we make. We don't make that much money. If all the factors are put in, the reality is emergency medical service is not really something that was supposed to be intended for profit making. This isn't a regular standard ambulance service that takes people from the nursing home to the doctors, or from the nursing home to the hospital in Boston. You have to pay private companies to make those transports. It was done because of a service to the public, to provide emergency medical service to the public, to get someone there in the event of an emergency. And it always disturbs me with health care that, we continue to try to make health care a profit-making business. And that's the reason that all the nations that are ahead of the United States in health care all have socialized medicine, where profit is not why we provide medical care. It's for patient care. And I don't know. I think you said, what was it, CJ? What's the #1 nation in the world for health care now? Didn't you say it was it Taipei or something like that?
No, it was, I want to say Norway, but I might be wrong. I had
Well,
it the other day.
most of the Scandinavian countries have excellent health care.
Right.
The UK has socialized a very, very good health care system. Canada has a very good health care system, all of which is socialized. And as one doctor who was in one of those things said, he said, why do you work here and make a little less money? He said, I make adequate money. He said, but as a physician, I find it far better to work in a system where I can choose the best course of action for my patient and for the best outcome rather than consider price. And that's what happens in the United States. We pay the most of any nation in the world for our health care.
For the least care.
And we don't rank anywhere near the top in anything. I think last time I checked, we were 48th in infant mortality.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean,
amazing.
that's absurd.
Right.
We have third world countries that have lower infant mortality rates than we do, and we're spending trillions of dollars a year in health care. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's sad. It truly is sad. But, you know, this is what happens. You know, I found a few things, and I'm only going to go over them quickly because we only have a few minutes left. But the streetscapes projects are starting. You know, that waste of money that doesn't work. That's starting, and they're going to start over on Columbia Street in South Main, I guess.
Oh yeah, let's get. You know what we should do? We should give out. We should give out on our page. We should have excerpts from the book that we read.
Yeah, I
show
know.
before that.
Hillbilly Egley.
That's right. Hey, yeah, and it's like, you know, another massive waste.
Right.
Put some facades, and I like it because it talked about facades, and that's what it is. It's a facade.
Well,
let's put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, well, now that you talk about facades, Executive Plaza down at the bottom of President Avenue.
Yep.
Well, that was sold to Frank and Nick Marchioni. Do you know who they are? Well, Frank is on the board for the Florida Office of Economic Development.
Yep.
So it's very interesting when you see that they're dumping in money for a new facade and a new sign. A new surface on the parking lot should give the plaza new life.
Oh, yeah. It's going to change the fact that people in the city don't have any money.
Right. This end of the city will have its own identity soon, Frank Marciano said. My brother and I are happy to be part of it. How much in tips is he getting?
Yeah.
Is he getting any low-interest loans?
And how delusionary is he that he thinks a blacktop in a parking lot and putting a new sign up there will bring customers to businesses that historically have had difficulty running because, you know, what is the reality? We live in a city where almost a quarter of the people live below the poverty level and nobody's got any money. Read the book. Read the book.
You know, and we don't push books, but you can get them at the local library. And actually, it's got a waiting list. Since we spoke about it on the show, Chip, It actually has a waiting list. Here at BCC, I checked, you have to get on the waiting list. I checked at the Florida Public Library, it's on a waiting list. Even in the sales system, that book is on the waiting list. Middleborough, New Bedford, Taunton, everyone that's part of that system, it's on the waiting list for the electronic version and the printed copy. So obviously this book must be interesting, so get yourself on that waiting list soon. You know, we can't write this stuff. And honestly, I was extremely disappointed with that city council meeting yesterday, and I was more disappointed with the fact that the city council didn't have to have that meeting yesterday. It could have waited until next week when they have their regular meeting. They had that because they had to cancel last week. They didn't even bother to look at the fact that the Charter Commission was meeting and everything else was meeting at the same time. This is what creates the problem, people, and we don't have a way around it because nobody listens to us.
Oh, well, you know,
So this
stay
is the
angry,
way-
everybody, and remember, if you go to the city council meeting, wear a helmet.
That's it. Have a great day. We'll see you Friday.